It's a great question. Emily and I have never known me not traveling. I started when we got married. I'd already worked for Benny. I was working for Todd at the time, and so there was immediate grace God gave us that was unusual. So I want to first say, only by the grace of God, first and foremost. There's no formula for being away from your family and how to make it better. It's always hard, and God doesn't just give you grace; He gives your children grace. And so there was a special grace. It's actually been interesting since we moved here. This is the least I've ever traveled in probably a decade, and it's been unbelievable. Like I did a little trip. Micah came with me. We went to. It was the hardest like 3 days of my life. I've gotten used to being home, honestly.
Oh,
But I know that the Lord, like, there's an aspect of the call that I am never going to be able to get away from. That I'm always going to be committed to wherever the Lamb goes. It's what marks a specific group of people in Revelation 14 that I think applies to all of us is whatever He's called you to, is He enough of a reward that you'll follow Him anywhere? And the answer is yes. But how do you bring your kids into that? How do you bring your wife into that? So
yeah.
I hear a lot of like language around like families first, and family is absolutely should be a priority in our life. But actually, it's not God, family, ministry. It's God, and it's God. Without God, I can't lead my family. Without God, I can't lead the ministry. Without God, I can't accomplish anything. And so if I put God in all of it, He gives me grace for it. So what I've seen is I've seen pastors that forsake their family on the altar of ministry. It's God is not at the altar. It's just the altar of their ministry.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I won't give any names, but I've seen literally families break apart because the dad was never home.
Yeah.
And rather than the mother, and in many cases, it doesn't have to be the mom, it could be the dad that stays home. I mean, it's different for everybody. But on top of that, the mom wasn't present. And the scenarios that I've seen is always dad is leaving us to go do the Lord's work. My mom is a secret superhero that isn't talked about enough. Like everyone, talks about my dad because he's the one behind the pulpit. But if they knew like the
Yeah.
price that my mom's paid, it's not just the one leaving that pays the price. It's the one that stays
Yeah.
that pays, in a way, a bigger price, because at least when you're gone, like you're seeing the fruit of labor.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing people's lives changed. My wife's at home changing diapers, not seeing Tokyo and Singapore. You know what I'm saying? Like she's getting FaceTimes of me going, look at what God's doing. And she's like, Benji took his full nap today,
Yeah.
So her reward is much greater than mine. But something my mom taught us really, really well is they would sit us at a table and they would say, we call our dad Bubba. Bubba is not leaving us, we're sending him.
Yeah.
And so I was taught from a young age that we all signed up
Yeah.
to follow Jesus. Not just dad, but all of us signed up. The price he pays is he has to go, and the price we pay is we have to send him. You read about like the Moravians, like 100 years of prayer and worship, and kids would stand on shores as parents would be going to preach the gospel,
Yeah.
or one of the parents would be going and most likely never coming back, and kids would be standing on the shore shouting, "May the Lamb receive the reward of his suffering."
Yeah.
So it's like I don't want our generation to overcorrect that we don't find the beauty in following him,
Yeah.
and teaching our kids that the best thing we ever can do is pay the price to follow him because he's a worthy reward.
Yeah.
So my dad traveled all the time when we were younger, but the perspective that my mom put in us when we were home was never like, I never heard her on the phone complaining like, how much longer do you have to be gone?
Yeah.
It was and if she did, we never heard it. It was like, I thought my dad was straight up a superhero
Yeah.
going to nations, saving people's lives. So I went to this little Christian school and we did prayer requests and praise reports every day. And I could not wait to raise my hand and tell the class where my dad was preaching and the praise reports that were happening. Like I was so proud of him when he would go. And a lot of that was my mom. Every night she would always pray this whenever my dad was gone. Lord, give him the strength of 1,000 men. I'll never forget that. Like as long as I can remember. And so we were behind him as a family.
Yeah.
He wasn't leaving us. And so I don't think the issue is ever Do I go? Do I not go? Obviously, use discernment and try your best not to be away from your family forever. I think there's practical things as leaders we can do, and preachers of the gospel is like, you don't need to go for 5 days. Tell the person you'll go for 2.
Yeah.
You know, but it's been, I've lost count of how many times I've wept in airports and in planes and looking at my kids on my phone. I mean, I remember one time it was during Christmas. I had to go on a 10-day trip to, it was the Dominican.
Yeah.
And it was during Christmas time. I had brought Emily to California so she could be with her parents during that time. And they're like at like Christmas tree shopping, and they're like sending me, and I'm heading to the jungle.
Yeah. Having diarrhea.
And having diarrhea, getting weird, things from mosquitoes. And I remember turning on that song, "All Is for Your Glory,"
Oh.
and I'm in the airport, and people are probably thinking, "This guy probably needs help." And I'm like ugly crying, walking to my gate. I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's ever been a time since I've been married that I've gotten on a plane and been like, I want to do this. I'm just being honest. Like, everyone sees travel as so glamorous. When you have families, it was great when I was with Benny and single. Like, we would go and be gone. We'd hit 7 countries in 3 weeks. And it was cool because you're like, I got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
It's not that I didn't miss my parents, but your wife and kids is different,
Oh, yeah.
Now it's just like, how quickly can I get home? But there's been so much grace, and a part of that is we've just followed the model my parents set before us. Was I teach my kids, I explain to them before I go, why am I going? And they're like, to go tell the world about Jesus. And so if I can get that in them now, then I make the reward of my family the lamb.
Yeesh.
Rather than the reward of my family being me.
Yeah.
And it's really powerful what God's done through grace. So, again, I think we easily swing pendulums where there's a lot of teaching out there that's like, you should never go. And I'm like, well, then we should take half the Bible out, because he says the commission is to go and make disciples of all nations. And thank God for live stream nowadays. It allows us to do a lot. I will say too, I've seen so many cases where it's not just the man that's going. I mean, how many, especially in the worship leader world, a lot of times it's the woman that's going and the man's home with the kids. So let's go, Jathan. But my whole thing is a part of what Emily and I have really struggled with in the church, even in the church we've planted, churches we planted, is people will always go up to Emily with these like words of like, your time is coming. Like, you are gonna have the pulpit and it's gonna be amazing. And Emily's like, but I'm not reaching for it. So there's this culture that like being a mom, oh, you're just a mom, right? But like, there's more to you, girl. And we got all these conferences about how you are powerful and you are amazing. Well, you're powerful and you're amazing as a mom. And the holiest work we have is that which is actually connected to our vine.
Yeah.
And it's our children. It's the fruit that we produce in our family. And so Emily and I have had to combat it a lot. And Emily has taught me a lot about this, where she's like, I don't see being a mom as restrictive. I see being a mom as holy work.
Yeah.
And so, you think about like the the Wesley brothers' mom, these men started movements that touched the world. They had like, I don't know, 10 kids or something.
Yeah.
She would put a blanket on her head. And they knew that when mom had a blanket on her head, she was alone with Jesus. And that was her time with God, and it produced the Wesley brothers. So it's like, you never know who God has in your household that he's entrusted you to raise. And so this goes for husbands, this goes for wives, fathers, mothers. But like, there is this narrative that we so elevate services and pulpits and the person preaching that we make that like, one day you're going to do this, and insinuating that this is more important than what we're doing now. And so my mom led worship, but she never felt the call to preach.
Yeah.
And so many people try to say, no, you're going to preach. And I'm like, well, actually, what if she was anointed to worship and anointed to be a mom? Like, that's incredibly holy work.
Oh, yeah.
My mom said no to all kinds of deals and things on TV because she had an amazing voice and stuff. And she said, God told me to be a mom.
Yeah.
And so it goes, again, for both, whether it's the dad or the mom. But we got to stop this undertow in the church that being a parent is not as important as talking to strangers.
Even like